You're listening to a Meatsmith Harvest. This is the podcast that encourages and equips you to grow your home around the harvest. Welcome, Meatsmiths. This dialogue picks up where we left off in our last episode's conversation. You can find part 1 on our website, YouTube, or iTunes. If the content resonates with you, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/Meatsmith and donating a small monthly pledge. This goes directly toward more free media headed your way. Thanks for staying tuned for part 2.
Headcheese is also another holiday thing you could do with the boar's head. So Kat, for instance, is wondering, can you still make a headcheese if you don't have the cheeks on? Would it be worth it?
It's
meat-wise.
better, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the kind of headcheese you're going for. So, but yeah, the short answer is yes, absolutely do. It's the best, especially if the finished product of headcheese you are envisioning is little bits of meat suspended in an amber, semi-clear.
I don't know what that is.
An amber semi-clear.
Yeah.
Now the clearness of that gelatin is enhanced by the absence of fat, which is such a weird way to say that. So the less fat there is in the simmering pot, the more clear that stock will be.
Oh, okay.
And since the jowls are mostly fat, taking those off will help keep things clear.
Yeah.
And I would say there's 2 ways to do the head cheese. You can kind of go the super Frenchy route and make the fromage de tête, which is what I was just describing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can brine the head before that, depending on how much time you have for preparation or not. And again, it's really flexible on the brine as to the salinity of the brine and how long it spends in there, because you're going to cook the head by simmering. So you're going to counteract any over-saltification that may have occurred. So you can be really whatever brine you want, just whatever sounds good, pretty much as however long you want. Brines go bad when they get ropey, which means they get viscous, unctuous, oily, mucosaline. If you pull a head out and it's like, the brine will be, stringing down from it rather than dripping. So your brine's done then.
Okay.
The meat is fine, actually. Just cook it.
Okay.
But the brine's done. But that takes like months, and it depends on how much sugar you put in the brine.
Okay.
But that's all on the side. The more sugar, the more prone to ropey infestation it is. You could brine or not the head without the jowls.
Right.
And then put it in a big pot with your carrots, onions, and celery, maybe some leeks, maybe some garlic, and fill it with water and simmer. And really where the rubber meets the road with head cheese of this Frenchy type that I'm describing is with your dutiful nurturing of the stock that it's cooking in. So you want that to be as clear and as mild as possible. And what that means is never let it boil and always skim the scum.
That's right.
If you don't skim the scum, it's going to be plunged back down into the water. It'll fall back down and burn on the bottom and not be so good. That will make it acrid. It'll make it have a burnt flavor. And then skim. Oh, and don't let it boil. Boiling, you don't want rolling boils. Stuff will come up and then fall down. You want a tremulous, subtle, little discreet simmer. So full blast, and when you see on the heat, when you see things starting to rise, like a simmer might start to erupt on the surface, turn it down by half. And then that should help lock in that simmer. It might try to boil again, turn it down by half again. It might try to boil again. And so you just kind of have to watch it just to ensure. And if you turn it down again, you'll probably simmer indefinitely.
8 for the full blast.
Usually.
Yeah. That's our approach to any stock that we do.
Yeah, and that really allows the simmer, avoiding the boil, which means you get a nice consistent cake of gray hair and any other bitter things that you don't want in the head cheese that would cloud the stock and make it not taste so good. That rises to the top in a gray foam, and you skim that off, and you only have to do that for like the first half hour. But that is really the decisive element in a good head cheese. And then you get everything out, strain the stock, let the heads cool until you can actually touch them. strain the stock of all the vegetables. We even tend to strain it through like a kitchen cloth, and then refrigerate the stock. And this is the other key to achieving that clear stock. In the refrigerator, all the fat that is in the stock will precipitate to the surface, and you get a fat cap that by the next morning will be hard and very easy to peel. Get rid of that. And the reason you want to get rid of that is because you're going to reduce that stock. And you put it back on the pot, on the burner, without any fat or vegetables in it. It's really clear. And then you boil it pretty hard to reduce it. And you want to reduce that quantity by way down. You know, it's up to you. And it is also up to it. That's going to be the glue of the head cheese. That will determine how reduced that is, how much collagen or gelatin is in there, will determine whether or not you can actually slice the head cheese or whether or not it will crumble upon being sliced. So let it reduce. And the way you can enhance the sliceability of it is during the simmer, you want a couple of pig's feet in there. Those are the magic gelatin delivering mechanisms. Put pig's feet in there, trotters. That will help hugely. And I would say let it simmer a minimum of 2 hours, the whole thing. That would be the absolute minimum. The longer you simmer it, and these are the fine points. This is ridiculous. Shouldn't even go into this, but it's just interesting. The longer you simmer it, the more bitterness you will pull from the bones.
Okay.
But it's so subtle, like
the chalkiness.
Yeah. The preface is this doesn't matter. This is just if you want to obsess over this to an unhealthy degree.
Which some people do.
And the meat will, you're kind of in simmering, you are removing flavor from the meat a little bit. Fortunately, it will stay in the stock, which is going to be the medium in which the meat is suspended. But the meat itself starts to suffer a little bit. So if you want to just simmer for 2 hours, or so that when you pull the skull out, you might have to tug just a little bit to get the meat off the skull, just a little. But the thing about that is the meat is still cubable. So you can actually chop it into little squares, which is real fancy. Though if you let it go longer, the meat gets so soft and pullable that there's chopping is out of question. It's not going to hold a shape at all, which is fine.
Which is fine because we've had that happen, and you just throw it over rice in a braise, and it's just like a stocky, kind of a stew almost.
Yeah, we rarely eat head cheese in this family as a thinly sliced from a loaf-shaped head cheese served with mustard. Rarely ever. That doesn't work at
practical
our
level.
Table. But I do fantasize about that. I definitely make it to be served that way every time. But we tend to treat it like it's like a pre-made braise. In our family.
That's how it was worked out.
We'll even freeze it and then pull it out and just all you do is plop the mason jar of head cheese in, warm up the outside, chuck it out, shake it out after warming the outside of the glass with hot water into a pan, and basically you just warm it and you have an instant reduced sauce that is delicious and wonderful, pullable, tender,
ready to eat.
So that's the Frenchy style of head cheese. You put the meat in a mold of any kind. You could do a cereal bowl, you could do a terrine, do a loaf pan, and then pour in the reduced stock, and then refrigerate that for another night. And then you could even refrigerate it inside parchment paper. And then the next day you just lift the parchment paper out of the terrine and kind of roll it out. And gently slice into it.
Now, if you're going to simmer these heads and not cut them open, I guess you probably would cut it open to make it easy, to make it fit in your pot, really. So then at that point, you could extract the bullet from the brain, because this guy's out, Philip, and one of our patrons was asking, what safety precautions do we need to make in regards to the lead 22 round that was used in the headshot so we can rest peacefully as the head simmers gently on our stove? So will you just take the bullet out?
If I know I'm going to make head cheese from it, and the only way to get that bullet out is to saw the head in half. That's the only way. And then you search for it, and you can usually find it. If you can't find it in the head, it might be in the shoulder And again, the way to find it is follow the trauma. Follow the bloodshot meat and the path of the bullet and the bone fragments. Just follow them.
Yeah.
If you see a spot of blood on the shoulder from which the head was severed, stick your finger on it. And if your finger goes in, that is where the bullet will be. So, yeah, you just kind of search for it and get it out of there. I don't worry about getting the bullet when I'm just roasting it. Because I don't think we're imparting a ton of lead.
Right.
It's pretty much, it's just in there. It's in the
yeah.
cavity. But, you know, we're probably getting a little, no more than what you would get from a duck that you shoot out of the sky with lead shot. You know?
Oh, sure.
So there's a little bit of that, but I think it's, if lead is a threat with the cooking of a head, it would be in its water solubility, which is in the stock and simmering. So if you don't want that heavy metal before you make your head cheese, then yeah, just pull it out.
Real quick, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, if you have any questions, we're addressing them right now on holiday meals and anything that you'd like to try that you maybe feel a little reticent to and you need a little bit of encouragement or, you know, tricks or just any information to help you do that, let us know. Right now, we're going to be addressing these questions at the end of the podcast. And one question I had also, as we're talking about holiday meals, Kat, she had another question, roasting whole piglets.
Yeah.
So that's probably similar to roasting a head. Particularly, she asks, would you bone it out or?
I wouldn't, unless I had a lot of time on my hands. And particularly because piglets, that would be hard. That'd be like boning out a rabbit. Almost. It'd be easier than boning out a rabbit and keeping everything homogenous. Well,
how would you roast a piglet then?
This
whole tradition's based on
I
this
haven't
too.
roasted a piglet
right.
in my days, but I'm absolutely confident that I could.
Yeah, that hasn't stopped you in the past from doing things.
I would love to.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's the same thing, you know. It's I imagine the challenge with roasting a piglet would be to balance the crisping of the skin with the perfect degree of cookedness of the meat beneath it. You don't want to roast it in too early. So I would start with the assumption that it would be very difficult to cook the piglet for too long because it has that same beautiful forgiveness built into it that a pig head does, which is fat right under the skin. That is bulletproof. You can't. Well, I mean, technically, it's not bulletproof, but
the bone, that whole like layering.
Yeah, that skin is a layer. It really holds in the liquid fat as it melts and all the moisture, and then you've got the liquid fat in there, just pasting everything and keeping it so moist. So start the cooking of the piglet with that in mind. That I could go much longer, and it would probably be just that much more tender. So I wouldn't worry about trying to make it rare inside. That would not be my goal in cooking a piglet.
Okay.
It's the same way that I approach cooking a pig whole, like on a spit, a larger pig. I don't think about, I want the hams to not be cooked above 140 or else they'll be dry. It's like, no, magically, they will not be dry.
Right.
The slow, dutiful application of low heat over a very long time with all that moisture and the fat trapped in there by the skin will ensure that even if you cook, you know, even if by the pelvis it's 170 degrees Fahrenheit, that will still be just brain meltingly tender. It'll be delicious and juicy. So I would treat the cooking of a piglet the same way. And so I would do the same thing. I would splay it out rather than tuck it in. So break the breast, the chest bone, the sternum, and maybe even pop the fissure, whatever that's called, where the pelvis unites, just to get the leg out. I would kind of want it out a little bit, as much as I could.
Right.
And
doing the splits.
Yeah, again, you're going to need your big tall pan.
Exactly.
You know, halved potatoes and such in there, fennel,
Mm-hmm.
and lay the pig on that, olive oil, salt, rub it in, and then let's see, what would I do? I would put it in the oven at 325 and I would probably, because I've never done this before, so this is how I do it, having never done it. Check it every half hour to 40 minutes. I'm rarely that diligent, so I probably wouldn't check it that often.
Mm-hmm.
And by checking it, I mean, I would look at it just to make sure I don't want the skin to brown yet. I don't want the skin to brown yet.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be getting dry, but I don't want it to get brown and crispy yet. And I would just be checking it. Maybe I would poke a thermometer in there, and the pertinent places to check with the thermometer are underneath the shoulder blade or at the pelvis. Just go over the pelvis, because that's going to be where the thickest piece of meat is, where you're going to want to just make sure that it's not totally raw, when you pull it out of the oven. So I would say 325 for like an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half, depending on the size of the pig. But I guess it fits in there since it's a little guy. And yeah, maybe not even that long, like 325 for an hour. Yeah. And then whack up the heat to 450 degrees to crisp up the skin at the end for 20 minutes or so. If you wanted to get real fancy, you could heat up some lard on the cooktop until it's like smoking. Again, put your welding gauntlets on and your welding mask. And then you could get the piglet out of the oven after that first hour and then ladle just crazy hot lard on it. And nothing crisps as readily as young pig skin. When they get older, it gets thicker and it's a little harder to crisp, and it can tend towards being still brittle, but not crispy. You know what I mean? But young pig skin, and you just pour that hot fat on there, and it'll just bubble immediately. And that would be the goal, is perfect crisping of the skin with, just pulled pork consistency on the inside.
That would be beautiful.
Let it rest again. Let it rest for half hour to 40 minutes after the oven. That's how I would do it. Of course, scalding and scraping. That's a given. Yeah.
I see that as a really great Christmas dish, in particular, with going with the symbolism of it and everything. Would be perfect.
Yeah, and I would still shoot the pig. We get that question sometimes. Would you shoot a little tiny pig?
Oh, right.
Or would you just stick it?
Okay.
And it's tricky. It depends on the size of the pig. And that's the thing about slaughter. Every time I judge it by the circumstance. There's no rule, because circumstances are so different. Like when I'm slaughtering lambs, as an example, if I notice that they're all really jumpy, I'm probably not going to stay in the stall when I dispatch one of them at a time. Not necessarily because they fear the death, but it's my proximity. They're forced to be so close to me that eventually they'll probably just clear the wall of the stall like it's nothing and get out. And so then I'll take the lamb out. But if they're chill, I'll slaughter the lamb right in the stall, because taking them out of the stall, oddly enough, more than the death, stresses them out. They're herders, right? They like the herd. So I would approach, it's different approaches for each one. And with a little pig, I would do the same thing. If it's small enough and you can pick it up and hold it upside down by its hind legs, belly out, they will actually stop squealing in that position, which is inconceivable, but true. They do. They will stop screaming. Hanging up, so they're just kind of like, what the?
They're upside down.
Until that point, they will scream so that it echoes in your soul. And I mean, it's like, it'll give you brain damage. It's so loud. But then they'll stop. And then you could maybe just go in with a sharp, don't even pretend to do this without a sharp knife, and just a stick, and they'll bleed out and they'll scream.
Demonically.
At that point. and bleed out. And I would only attempt that with a real small pig. If I were to stick it without the bullet, that's what I would do. Usually I find myself, because I've slaughtered very tiny pigs before, I just use a 22 long rifle rather than a 22 Magnum. And trauma is minimal. The skull is still beautiful. It's just a hole. It's not fragmented. So you still have a beautiful roast pig coming out of the oven, not something with its head half blown up. If you use a 22 long.
Well, we've also got Toby on now.
Oh, hey, Toby.
He's a customer of ours. Thanks so much for listening. And he's asking about side dishes as well. We did talk about them, but it actually reminded me of our petite.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, because he's asking about like odd bits that aren't, front and center obvious things like pig's heads.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about offal and the kidney. You could use lamb kidneys too. In fact, that's what I did last year.
Yeah.
And actually, lamb kidneys are my preference now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Pork, they're just a little more subtle.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
They're cuter.
Yeah, they have the cute factor. Absolutely. But yeah, I grabbed that book and I will try to scan this. Hopefully that's not breaking copyright laws. I don't know if it is. I'll
check on that.
I'll maybe check on that. And I'll scan this and I'll add it to the show notes because I know I've talked about this in the past. This recipe is dynamite and it adorns at least one of our holiday meals. Probably, actually a couple, because I tend to make like 2 or 3 at a time. And I even go so far as to make the dough myself, which is no joke because it's lots of layering. But
you could also just get phyllo dough.
You could. If it makes it happen, then just get phyllo dough. But it's the Christmas. Does she call it Christmas one? I think she definitely makes a reference to its holiday nature.
Yeah.
But
Pithiviers au rognon. I don't know how to say it.
Oh, okay. But Jane Grigson has it in her charcuterie and French pork cookery, and I highly recommend making one of these happen for one of your holiday meals.
So what is it exactly?
Well, it's definitely dessert, but it's hearty. It's a hearty dessert.
It ends up being meals for us.
Yeah, it does. Like really solid breakfast meals. Yeah, definitely.
Like our dear friends at Burton Hill Farm that make excellent goat cheeses here on Vashon. Rebecca makes one almost every year.
Yeah.
Or a couple. And she sent us with one once. It's a great gift.
That's right, yeah.
And we ate it all within an hour of having brought it home.
Yeah, there's no saving
it. Just goes so fast because it is so...
It's so beautiful.
It's so delicious, and it's hearty and sweet.
You use almond... There it is.
Yeah.
Almond in the filling and macaroon even. So it's got some flavors that you don't normally find in run-of-the-mill desserts, plus the kidney itself. But the kidney adds this depth of flavor. It's not off-putting at all. It is part. That's not any way to advertise anything. It's not off-putting at all.
No.
It adds this amazing richness with the combined with the almonds. I think lemon's in there. Read off the ingredients list there.
Ground almonds, butter, sugar, macaroons, optional, and
definitely
lemon.
Use the macaroons.
The lemon rind. 2 egg yolks, thick cream. Oh, it's awesome. That's
right. And then we powder the top with some powdered sugar.
Yeah. So it's like an almond and kidney filled little pie.
It is
what it is.
Yeah.
And it's delicious room temperature too. It's not you can eat it warm. But this is kind of what it looks like. If I can show the people. Look at that. See how beautiful that is?
Yeah.
It's not even fun. But this is how Jane Grigson describes it. It's an old, exotic version of the unkidneyed Pithiviers cakes, which are sold in many northern France patisseries. Nobody will be able to guess what gives the delicious almond filling its interesting nutty texture. Serve it warm with single cream as a pudding in the traditional French Sunday lunch way. She adapted this recipe. She says, you can, of course, leave out the kidney, but don't.
Yeah, I love her turn of phrase.
It's really delicious, and it's important to say that people won't know that there's kidney in it.
Yeah.
Like, they really won't know. It is this, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that because I love the flavor of kidneys, but I don't really. It does just contribute this subtle, nutty savoriness, and it's really subtle, and it only magnifies the sweetness of the almond. Like it's one of those unique, beautiful achievements of the harmony of flavors where the result is more than the sum of the parts. Like you can't tell what is. It's like, oh, it's almond, or oh, there's cream, or oh, there's kidney. No, you can't tell. They all marry, create something that is greater than themselves.
Yeah,
which is the goal of all terrestrial life, I think. or something.
Well,
it's really good.
It's a combination of flavors you don't get very often. So while you're chewing it, you're searching. You're like, where is this coming from? I've never had this, and it's this light goes off in your head. Like, wow, this is amazing.
So good.
Yeah. So that's definitely one. Toby is actually replying here. Here's an idea for Vashon: local chanterelles plus wild huckleberry, which are in plenty right now.
Yeah.
Offal, or he's recommending lamb kidneys, a rooster comb.
Cool.
Yes, seriously. And then the rest of your stuffing and your dressing mix.
Yeah.
I guess you would combine all those. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Wow, and the huckleberry to kind of add some tartness.
Stuffing. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I like that a lot.
How many people do you know you would say truly share your back to the land values? Or your passion for home-scale craft meat curing? Or simply love the multifaceted beauty of a good meal as obsessively as you do? Maybe a handful? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created an online community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world and a platform for them to learn from and inspire one another. In addition to our major semi-annual hands-on educational event, The Family Pig, here at our Pacific Northwest homestead, over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources years deep now, for you to dive deeper into your food journey with. And both our classes and online program include access to our private community Facebook page for your continued education and fellowship. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you, putting the knife in your hand, article by article, and comment thread by comment thread, and can support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today.
I have a couple other questions here from our Patreon members, and let's see our time here. Yeah, I think we could probably do this one.
Yeah.
Actually, so right before our Instagram cut off, there's a question about lardo too. So let's talk about lardo.
Okay.
And he's asking how you cure it. So maybe a quick little rundown. But first, let's get to Lisa's. I want to make sure we get to her because she's a Patreon member. Her question's about leaf fat, and I know you're going to be able to answer this pretty quickly. Yeah. And it's you got to have leaf fat for your holiday meals because you will use it for your pies.
Anything that requires shortening.
Yes.
Do not use Crisco or hydrogenated vegetable oil. Use your leaf fat, leaf lard instead. It is the original shortening, of which everything else is a bastard and inferior imitation. Yeah,
that's true.
It's the nobility of baking fat.
Okay, so in the past, she's rendered leaf fat separately and was disappointed that there was a strong smell associated with it. I would describe it as an intestinal type of smell.
Yes.
This year, as we were gathering the leaf fat, I could pick up the smell on some areas of the leaf fat, and other areas didn't seem to have it. Are there areas to avoid in the leaf fat? Is there something I'm missing? All the regular lard turned out fabulous. Thanks for the opportunity to ask.
Yes. So what that likely is uric acid, and that's because the leaf fat is known by another name, which is kidney fat. And it's the internal body fat that it's on beef, it's on goat, it's on lamb, and it's on pig. And it's the fat that in which the kidneys are nestled. And so they can have some uric acid. They can have the pee-pee thing going on the leaf fat, on the internal body fat. So the pretty much the surefire way to avoid that is when you render it. So I prefer to grind it before I render it. If you don't have a meat grinder, just chop it up as finely as you can. I mean, the more surface area you can expose to heat, the more lard you will get, the higher the yield of lard.
Higher volume, right.
Yeah, notably, it's a big deal. So chop it up as fine as you can or grind it. And then put it in a pot on a low heat on your stove with the lid off.
That's right.
That's the key. Because during that rendering, when the fat is just melting into lard, it does actually get pretty hot. And if you see any little bubbles, that is water escaping or carrying uric acid with it. So it may even be, if you render it without the lid, that your kitchen might smell a little bit like pee-pee. But that means that your lard will not taste of the pee-pee. So that's the surest way that I know of.
Yeah.
To just completely exclude any flavors at all from the leaf lard, because the neat thing about it is that it is utterly mild. Like it is almost neutral. It's amazing that something can come from such a rich and flavorful animal that is so neutral that just lends just an ineffably perfect crispiness to your pastries. So
it becomes quite pure.
Yes.
But it has to have that off-gassing.
Render it with the lid off. So a lot of people get away with doing it in their crock pot, which is really convenient because you can just kind of walk away from it and check on it every few hours. But it's, there's a chance that you will be locking in some of that uric acid. And, smell the condensation on the lid of the crock pot to see if that, but that's what I would do, render without the lid.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there was another question. We have a little more time left about lardo. I don't think of lardo as a holiday treat, but I think that there's
solid pork fat, very fortifying in cold months. Brilliant.
That's true. Yeah. So how would you go about curing lardo?
Any way you want. And it's actually it's so easy. There are more ways to cure it. If you just make something up, you'll probably do very well. So I tend to cure it with my bacon. See, I don't even have a method for it in my mind right now because I don't even think about it because it's so effortlessly good every time.
Yeah.
The neat thing about it is that it's solid fat. So I like to take it from the back fat of a pig, so that subcutaneous fat layer, the fat layer right under the skin, and at the thickest point naturally, and where it tends to come from for me, and it can come from any piece of back fat, but the thickest is up by the Boston butt, up by the shoulder. And when I make copa, which is this, which comes from the Boston butt, there's a huge cap of fat on it, right there. And when I peel off that copa for curing, what remains is the thickest back fat on the entire pig. So I cut that off, and it ends up being about that, It's big. It's a lot. And I just salt, sugar, juniper berries, bay leaf, and you can surround it in that. I tend to do the method where I put the cure in a bin, and then I just lay the lardo in it, and then massage everything. And when you pull it up, an even layer of cure will have stuck to all sides of the lardo. Put that in the fridge in the walk-in for 5 days or 7. Say 7. Why not?
Okay.
Doesn't matter. And let it drain. And just try to make sure it's not sitting in its puddled liquid. And it might barely drain at all because there's not a lot of water in fat.
Right, that's true.
And then reapply another single application of cure for another 7 days. At the end of the 14, rinse all the salt off completely, no more on there on the surface. So with even tepid water, because that will really cut and even pull a little bit of the salt that may be suspended in the surface of the back fat, and dry it thoroughly. And it's done at that point. So you can wrap it and keep it in your fridge, and that will kind of help it not yellow. Fat is prone to rancidity depending on the diet and genetics of the pig. The Mangalitsa lardo that we made was excellent because Mangalitsa, these guys were eating lots of tannins in their environments, which is an antioxidant which prevents the oxidation and rancidity of the fats. And I can attest to it. It's real. We just ate the last smidgen of it for lunch yesterday or something, and not a hint of bitterness or rancidity. And we cured that in spring of this year.
Yeah.
Really impressive. And it's been hanging in here in oxygen.
Right.
So that was pretty awesome. But that's how we cured the lardo. But I was going to actually look up recipe for you, which is unfamiliar to me because I rarely think of these as recipes. But I actually did write it down. I'm trying to write things down.
Trying to be organized.
I actually weighed things. Yeah, here it is. I actually measured out the salt. So you can measure the piece of lardo and then 2% salt by weight. I mean, that's the other way you can measure anything that you're curing. That will cure salami to fermentation. That will also cure bacon to perfect degree of saltiness and curitude in perpetuity. And same thing goes with lardo. So that I salted at 2% by weight and then did the 14-day thing. So you can divide that 2% in half and apply it once at the beginning and then once in the middle, and then rinse it in lukewarm water. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, it's really simple.
Okay. And then it's ready.
Yeah, let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, it's so simple.
Yeah, and then once you have it, it's so versatile.
It is, and it doesn't benefit tremendously from hanging like a prosciutto might for 2 years, which is like totally essential to the curing of the prosciutto, or to the finished texture. It's already cured with salt, but not so much with lardo. You can just kind of start using it right away. Just keep it in your fridge, thin little slices. I mean, my favorite is slices of bread fried in butter or lard or something, and then take a garlic clove and scrape it on the bread, and then a couple thin slices of lardo on the bread. So good. It's like this, just so good.
If it's hot, if the toast is hot, then it makes the lardo almost kind of turn translucent on you.
Yes.
It's not enough to fully render it, but it makes it really pretty. And
it does, follow your taste with that. If you're like, oh, I don't like lardo, it's too fatty, which will happen because 'tis fat. But that just means make the fat edible. Like, employ some strategies. And my particular strategy, there's something about those three: the crispy bread, the garlic tang, that not only makes solid fat edible, but downright desirable. It's just it's perfect. It's this harmony. So create harmonies with it. Fat usually needs something tangy, something crispy. That's how you eat massive amounts of fat, which I recommend, especially exclusively from healthy pigs. Crispy, tangy.
Yeah.
You could also, if you really want, you could dust the whole brick of lardo and paprika, and then cold smoke it for 1 day, and then wipe all the paprika off with a moist towel, and plenty will have stayed to it, even after wiping it off, but you get a solid layer. And that is like a smoked Polish lardo called paprikowana słonina. And it's just stupid good. It's so good. And it keeps indefinitely. Yeah.
So maybe one more item for a holiday grab bag. If there's any last minute questions, throw them our way. But I wanted to talk about real quick, how are we going to do our poultry for Thanksgiving? Because
are we poultrying for Thanksgiving?
We are. We're doing duck because that's what we have.
Yes.
And I think it'll be really, really beautiful. We're probably going to do 2 ducks, I think.
Yeah.
We didn't get to processing anything turkeys this year.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen every year. So when it doesn't happen, we usually do some sort of local island poultry that's available.
Yeah.
And we do have 30 ducks in our freezer right now. So
yes. All right, I think I know what we're gonna do.
Okay. So I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about this.
Okay.
But I think I got it.
Okay.
We've already done duck stuffed duck.
That's right.
Which was incredible and wonderful. But I'm really into the phenomena of chestnuts right now. because they have a subtle crunchiness and a sweetness that is indescribable. Everybody knows this, but I have discovered chestnuts for the first time in my life this year, and it's rocking my world a little bit. They're incredible.
It's his latest obsession.
Oh my gosh, they're so good.
We're planning our whole 2.5-acre property around chestnut trees now.
Yes, that's the goal. As many chestnuts as is possible, because what we won't eat, the pigs will. Maybe we could feed them to the geese that aren't even here yet, and at the very least, stuff all the animals with chestnuts upon their roasting. So, so that's it. That's what I want to do, and I'm pretty happy. They happen to be available in Bashan right now. There's loads of chestnuts available. So, I would like to stuff both of our ducks with chestnuts. And we've already done one, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
But I'm getting better at cooking them the way I like, and I really like augmenting their native sweetness with that of a mild whiskey, particularly my favorite whiskey, Westland Distilleries American whiskey, because it has enough toastiness to not be that like brandy sweetness, you know, but it still has a caramel banana thing going on, and that is just perfect for the chestnuts. And so what I end up doing is, scoring all the chestnuts and then roast them, I think for a half an hour, 300 or something like that, 325, maybe 350, and then peel them all and then chop them all and then kind of quickly fry them gently in lots of butter, and then a slosh of whiskey, and let it ignite to burn off the alcohol, so that what remains is just the banana nutty caramel flavor. And it really augments the chestnut flavor. And I think that with, again, some maybe sweated shallots, I'm gonna think about it more. We'll stuff the ducks with that, but I would like to bone out the ducks again, so that we could do slices, make more of that stuffing accessible and easily accessible on the table when we carve it.
Yeah.
So
right.
I'll bone out the carcass. The legs and the wings will still have bones in them, but I will sew the spine shut where the seam will be.
So what would you mix with the chestnuts? Anything, or just
I mean, I think onions and alliums could go well in there. They'll just make it more sweet. Yeah. With some savoriness, which is kind of what this whole thing is about. What herbs would I do? I don't have any good ones growing right now. My imagination of herbs is dimmed by their absence. Their absence on our property.
I was thinking mushrooms.
Oh, it's a great idea. Yeah. Chanterelles or something.
Yeah.
We're going for buttery, sweet richness.
Exactly.
Let's just go.
And what's funny? What's so ironic is we have Morgan and Ryan watching us right now on Facebook, and Ryan's the one that introduced us to chestnuts like last holiday season a year ago.
Oh, I thought those were hazelnuts.
No, they were chestnuts. He told us how to roast them and everything.
Okay.
It was an indelible memory that I made, and anyway, you started something, Ryan. Because here we are. We're like planning our whole landscape around and kitchens around chestnuts right now. So that sounds exciting. Yeah. Cool. We're gonna do two ducks.
Yeah, maybe apples. We'll stuff them with apples.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that sounds good. Okay,
parsley.
so that's our holiday, our Thanksgiving menu.
Green parsley.
Yeah, we could find some of that on Bashan. We didn't get to our own garden very well this year.
Not at all.
We did some other things.
That was the ducks' fault. So
exactly.
We killed them all.
So that's why we're enjoying the ducks. I know. The duck saga of 2018.
We won.
We did, and we're going to be enjoying that this holiday season. So, yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up. Thank you for joining us. And we will be here. Actually, one little piece of news. We are really, really, truly getting these out every week now. It has happened.
We did one last week?
Well, no, but starting with this one, we have made financial and spatial room to be recording as we have been every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we'll record again in 2 weeks, but we're splitting up these longer form conversations into 2 parts.
Yes.
So, and I've got the right team happening right now that's going to help us do that. So we're going to have a weekly podcast.
Excellent.
Which is really exciting. So, I'm going to say too that we're going to be recording this every 2 weeks, usually on Thursdays. That's kind of a good day to do that.
Yeah.
So Thursday morning, I'm going to try to make it a regular thing. Join us again on Facebook and Instagram if you want to get your impromptu questions to us. And I'm going to try to email everyone too the morning of. I did this morning, and I said, be there at 9 a.m. And then the world fell apart. And I didn't get out here until, I got out here at 9:30, but then the light stand broke and the webcam wasn't connecting and everything fell apart.
All the things happened.
So we didn't actually live up to that promise. I'm really sorry about that if you got that email, but we're honing in on that. So we'd like to have and it works really well to have Facebook and Instagram live up. It made my head explode for about 10 minutes, but then I was okay.
Yeah.
And we had everyone join us. So
that's great.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. This means a lot. So that's it. Happy holidays, everyone. Listen to a Boar's Head carol if you want some inspiration. And I'll
and sing it.
And sing it with gusto. I'm teaching it to my kids. The kids love it. It's really, really fun. All right. So without further ado, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And enjoy your time with your family and your friends, loved ones. Take care.
You can receive updates on all our brand new content as it's released by signing up for our email newsletter. Free download of Brandon's thoughts on meat cookery included. Go to farmsteadmeatsmith.com and sign up on the homepage. Thanks again for listening, and keep in touch.